So this is part 3 of the language of sacrifice, and as we get further into this video, I will get to making one's own life a sacrifice, meaning to make it sacred or to sanctify it in a particular way. Now, I had just been talking about some of the history of the U.S. or the British colonies of North America and Great Britain, and I also made reference to several Hebrew prophets. So it's not my priority to judge King Charles II, William Penn, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham, Noah, or anyone else. It's also not my priority to obsess over other people's perceptions of my religious ideals. I could keep them private. Those of you who are watching this probably know I tend not to keep them all that private necessarily, to the extent that I have religious ideals. I guess you would say I rather openly, historically, I've rather openly shared my religious interpretations and thoughts and what I really respect. So while judging any particular other person or finding out what other people think of me and trying to influence their perception of me, well, those aren't really big priorities. Promoting the welfare of my descendants is a priority for me, not just any one descendant, but my descendants as a whole, my future descendants, my current descendant. I actually only have one as of right now. So I would be willing to sacrifice other priorities or even my own life. In fact, I'm going to die eventually, so why not sacrifice my entire future for the welfare of my descendants? What else is a worthy sacrifice? Generally speaking, anything that is good for me will further my ability to promote the welfare of my descendants. So sacrificing my own life does not mean sabotaging my own life. That's actually more something seems to me in my own history of a variety of things have been patterns of sabotage, self-sabotage. So sacrificing my own life does not mean self-sabotage. It also does not mean heroically displaying my ego and my religious ideals by parading my rebellion against some powerful group or tyrant, the evil villains. I simply do not care all that much what everyone thinks of me. Particular people, yes, I might care what they think of me, but everyone, no, I don't care what everyone thinks of me, because everyone doesn't think of me. If there's 6 billion or so people on the planet, I'm pretty sure most of them don't think of me. I'm more interested in what I think of me and what I think of my descendants. And I think of them very highly, by the way. Just as you might think of your own descendants very highly. So I sacrifice the translated image of a blurry scripture about a sacred painting of a fuzzy photograph. I make all of that sacred by sacrificing it in the service of my descendants. If it helps promote the welfare of my descendants, then I value it. If not, I may discard it. Exactly how it promotes the welfare of my descendants is how I value it. So some institutions, including the Anglican Church, the Holy Roman Empire, the state of Massachusetts, some institutions may systematically favor the interests of the founders of those institutions, or the colony of Massachusetts if it's 1659. The institutions may be designed to disproportionately promote the interest of the descendants of the founders. That's kind of obvious in the case of a monarchy or a dynasty. And in promoting the interest of those descendants, an institution may be designed even to exploit others, to enslave others. You may have heard of slavery. If you're very familiar with American history, you've probably heard of slavery. So institutions may exploit others, enslave them, kill them, imprison them, deport them, send them away to distant, Australia or some other continent where they will not distract the loyal subjects of the king from being loyal subjects of the king. We don't want Quaker principles and Quaker kinds of questions being asked in our jurisdiction, right? So the wealth and labor of the masses may be extracted by coercion to be presented to the descendants of the founders or the current monarch. Their wealth and labor may be extracted by coercion, and they may be programmed in churches, in mainstream media, in schools. They may be programmed, distracted, confused, and deceived in order to promote their compliance and obedience to the system, to the tax system, the court system, and so on, designed to favor one group even at the expense of others. For instance, again, you take the Virginians, or take some Virginians and some Pennsylvanians and some, what do you call it, if you're from Massachusetts, whatever that's called, and you take some strong young men and you send them to kill some Sioux or some Apache or, the bad people. So, or, the Canadians or the Republicans or the Hispanics or whatever. Or the South. Oh, yeah, kill the Confederates. Now, that's actually a really prominent part of U.S. history, right? So there's wars and there's conflict going on, and they're political and they're economic and they're military. So some social conditioning may train us to be loyal soldiers or loyal technicians in the industrial plants where there's manufacturing of rockets and computers and shoes and whatever tools of war. Some social conditioning may train us to sacrifice ourselves and our children, instead presenting us with ideals of selflessness, meekness, shyness, and obedience. Shyness isn't in the blog. I just added that for no reason. We may be programmed with ideals of future incarnation, reincarnation, as a rich person in exchange for our good behavior, our obedience and conformity today with the Holy Scriptures of Santa Claus. So if you want to be reincarnated as a admiral of the British Army, well, then you better be a good boy. We may be enticed with promises of a paradise after death if we just sacrifice our lives for the military imperialism of the British monarch or the Emperor of China, for Chinese. I don't know if any of us are Chinese other than not me. Or the Holy Roman Empire, or the state of Virginia or Massachusetts, because, again, Puritans are the only true way, according to all Puritans. So if we excel as a soldier, we may be promised a medal, 2 statues on the top of white City Hall buildings if we're really prominent as a soldier, if we excel, and an annual parade in our honor. And when we die, we will also get an eternity of sexual pleasure with 100 virgin wives, exclusive to me personally, if we're just the right kind of loyal suicide bomber, jihadist, or whatever that is. That kind of thing. And also you have to vote Libertarian, because Libertarians are the only sane people. You do realize I'm joking, right? No, I'm serious. No. All right. Quietly, I might be interested in relaxing the trauma and confusion with which I have been indoctrinated by the Libertarian Party. I was sharing with one of my Facebook friends, who's also a graduate of Landmark Education, for those of you who know what that is. I was mentioning to him that I was personal friends with the 1976 Libertarian Party candidate for U.S. president. I say I was friends with him because he died. He was, older than I am now, probably back in 1976. But I have been indoctrinated with political ideals and religious ideals, all these ideals, and I might be interested in quietly relaxing some of that idealism, coming through those tangles of idealism so I can have, brushing through them. Brush, that's how you get the tangles out. It's brush, not combing. Sorry. So I can be able to comb my hair without all these tangles. Because religious idealism is a lot like tangles in your hair, right? I might be interested in quietly relaxing the trauma and idealism and confusion that I've been programmed with. And I might be very interested in advancing my economic interests, especially in collaboration with others, not just any others, but selectively with others, including my closest biological relatives, but not exclusive. I might sacrifice other ideals and pretenses and personas and characteristics for the benefit of my descendants. For the benefit of my descendants, I might mature. I might develop. I might notice that when I sacrifice my commitment to my descendants, I experience discontent. When I sacrifice my loyalty to social conditioning for the welfare of my descendants, I may notice that I experience calmness, contentment, clarity, and maybe even occasional surges of a tenacious inspiration. I am now officially done with the presentation on the language of sacrifice in regard to taking the secular culture of be a good consumer and be a good political idealist and be a good reformer and be a good person and earn your way into heaven. In contrast, I'll sacrifice that and instead live a contrasting ideal of a contrasting life of a new ideal. You can call it an ideal, which is for the welfare of my future and current descendants, as well as extended, second cousins and all that kind of stuff. So, as I mentioned, there's this interest I have in collaborating with like-minded people, even for matters of business and economic advancement, but also for just social purposes. I've done a lot of interesting things with my health lately, and I used to have more of a sense of I want to tell everybody about all these great things I'm doing with my health, and now I have more the sense of I don't have time to tell everybody, and everybody doesn't want to know. Most of them are too loyal to mainstream medicine and what's popular and familiar to them. So the idea here is I'm willing to sacrifice what's familiar for the welfare of my descendants. That's really like the super short version of this whole article. I'm willing, I should write that down. I'm willing to sacrifice what's familiar for the welfare of my descendants. Sometimes after only, 40, 60, 100 minutes of time, I can just really get concise. I'm willing to sacrifice what's familiar for the welfare of my future descendants. What about you?